The excuses of Moses, Exodus 3, 1 through 4 and 17, part 1 of 2. Introduction. 1. When God appeared to Moses at the burning bush, A. He called him to the task of leading the children of Israel out of the Egyptian bond. B. In response, Moses gave excuses as to why he did not think he was the man for the job. 2. The excuses of Moses and God's response to them will serve as the basis for our study. A. For in a similar way, as God's people today, we have received from God a special calling. B. Not to go to a country to deliver those in physical bondage, but to a world to deliver those in the bondage of sin. Mark 16:15 and 1 Peter 2, 9 through 10. Too often, though, we behave just like Moses, making the very same excuses. Let's begin by reading Exodus 3, 1 through 10, refreshing our memories of how God called Moses. Reminded of this call, we are now ready to consider the first 5 excuses given by Moses. Who am I? Found in Exodus 3:11. 1. Though Moses was once a member of a ruling house of Egypt, A. He was now but a lowly shepherd. B. 40 years had passed since he had been in Egypt. C. He was an 80-year-old man, already past the average lifespan for his generation. This prompted Moses to wonder whether he was the right man for the job. 2. But God's response was quick and should have been adequate. A. I will certainly be with you, Exodus 3:12. B. God promised to be with Moses, and this alone should have been sufficient. C. As Paul later wrote, if God is for us, who can be against us? Romans 8:31. B. Some of us use the same excuse today. 1. Trying to excuse ourselves by believing we are insufficient for the task. A. It is true that by ourselves we are insufficient. B. But God can make us sufficient. 2 Corinthians 3, 5 and 6. C. Look what he did with the apostles, uneducated and untrained men. Acts 4:13. 2. Through Jesus, God has provided us the same assurance given Moses. Matthew 28:20. 3. With his help, we can accomplish anything he wants us to do. Philippians 4:13. As will be apparent later, any excuse for not doing what the Lord has called us to do is simply a smokescreen. So it was with Moses, and we find him quickly coming up with another excuse. What shall I say? A. This excuse is found in Exodus 3:13. 1. Moses knew that should he go to the children of Israel, there were bound to be questions. A. Such as, who is this God who sent you to us? B. And perhaps, why are we to leave this country we have come to consider our home for over 400 years? Moses expresses inadequacy in knowing what to say. 2. Again, God's response was quick. A. Thus you shall say, Exodus 13 and 14. B. God tells Moses what he needs to say in response to their questions. Again, a similar excuse is sometimes given today. 1. We try to excuse ourselves by saying that our knowledge is inadequate. 2. But God has told us what to say. A. It is really quite simple. Mark 16:15 and 16. B. How simple. 1 Corinthians 15, 1 through 4 and 2:2. And so, as with Moses, we have no reasons for saying, "What shall I say?" As we return to Moses, we see that despite God's instructing him what to say, he soon raises a third objection. Suppose they will not believe me. A. This excuse is found in Exodus 4:1. 1. Now that he knows what to say, he balks at the idea that the people may not listen. A. Is he afraid of failing? B. Has he already forgotten that God will be with him? 2. God responds by equipping him with several convincing proofs. A. The rod, which turns into a serpent, Exodus 4:2-5. B. His own hand, which turns into leprosy, Exodus 4:6-8. C. The water, which will turn into blood when dropped on dry ground, Exodus 4:9. B. Some hesitate to share the gospel for the same reason. 1. The fear of failure keeps them from trying. B. But just as God gave Moses convincing proofs, so he has given us the evidences necessary to convince honest and sincere person. The end of part 1 of 2.